Are you struggling with your goals? Would it help to understand how to program your timeline for success using NLP? A quick little way to envision your goals in the future the right way, really cool, easy, non-invasive, fun way to program your future timeline for your success and to accomplish your goals. If so, then I'd like to invite you to my video training that's coming up next. That's going to actually walk you through a literal session of programming your timeline for success. But before we get to that, we need a little preparation. You first need to discover what your personal timeline is like and learn a few little tricks of how to view it and see it and manipulate it and come in and out of it and look at memories and create new visions of the future in some really cool ways for a few minutes. Discover that, kind of get a taste of it, a feel for it before just jumping into the program one. So you'll be able to relax and just go with the successful, programming your future timeline for success. So this is called Discovering Your Timeline. And it's just a little transcript that I'm going to read to you that will help you learn everything you need to know for the next video training. It'll just take a couple of moments. So, can you remember when you were about 5 years old? I'm going to assume you say yes. If not, do you remember a time when you were, say, 6 or 7? Yeah, great. From what direction did that memory come from to you just now? And what direction would you give it if I asked you where that memory of being 5 years old, how it popped up in your mind, what direction it came from? So it might be from behind you or to the side or feeling lower than where you're at, or it might be to the left. It may be to the right. It may be in front of you or above you, or really anywhere in space or time. It could feel like it's deep inside of your mind or your gut or really anywhere. It's just this is to discover what your timeline feels like to you. So when you think about when you were 5 years old, think about some memories, just plain everyday memories of when you were very young. Where do they seem to come from to you in the general direction? So let's say they come from maybe slightly behind you. And now I'm going to ask you that if you see a bunch of memories over there on the sort of left side, perhaps, could be right, slightly behind you. Do you just see them there? Do you sense them there? Good. So your past is a little bit to the left and maybe behind, as an example, because if yours is to the right and above, just change those words as you're listening to this. So your past is there, and so where's the future? Okay, where's the future? When you look towards the future, what direction does it feel like you're looking, you're thinking it? Just keep thinking more and more about the future till you get a sense of that direction. Okay, good. So are you aware that the memories of the past and the memories of the future are arranged in sort of a line or a timeline that goes from left to right or up to down or any combination? Okay, yeah, great. That's what we call your timeline. I want you to get a sense of the direction of your timeline, your past, where you're at now, and your future. Okay, so now let's have some fun with this because that's what we're doing here. We want to make this fun. What I'd like for you to do is just stop for a moment and think about, you could actually stop and float up above your timeline so that you have the opportunity to see the entire continuum of past, present, and future below you as you float up, as though it were organized in a line and you just keep floating up above it. And as you think about it, notice how good it feels to be above all that. You do, don't you? Excellent. Now I'd like you to float back in time, remembering, of course, where now is. And I'd like you to go back in time, floating, still above, but floating back in time in that direction. And pick out a memory, any memory will do, just a general generic memory, that made you very happy. And just pick any memory that made you happy in any point of time as you float towards the past. You just have a sense of picking one out of there. Pick one out and then float down now. Drop right down into that memory as if you're just walking into the memory as you remember it a little bit more clear, and sort of relive that experience even. You could see yourself there and even step back into your body and remember what it is you saw when you were there. See what it is you saw. Hear what it is you heard. And feel the feelings of being in that happy moment, that happy memory. Isn't that good? It's always nice to remember a happy memory. Okay, but enough of this happiness. Now just put that memory aside now. Just leave it there. And for a moment, what I want you to do, float back up a little from your timeline and sort of take it with you as you float up above your timeline a little bit. And then float back down and just put that memory right back there in the timeline where it was. Excellent. So now you're playing with your timeline. It's fun, isn't it? So now I'd like you to float up, up, up above your timeline again. Just float up above it, up enough to you see the whole continuum again of your timeline, the whole entire thing. And I'd like you to look at that continuum of past, present, and future. Get up high enough so you can see the whole thing now. This time I'd like you to float and start floating towards the future. All the way out into the future. I want you to keep moving in the direction of the future. Just go right up, all the way out to almost where it ends. Just go out into the future and go right up to just before the end of the future of your timeline. And when you get there, stop. And just stop there and turn around now. And just turn around and just look back towards now. Just look back at your timeline again from where you're at now at the end of it. You're standing above your timeline looking down on it so that you're looking back all the way from the future, all the way across now, all the way into the past. I want you to notice if the past and the present and the future look the same. Do they have the same brightness or color or lightness or anything like that? Just notice that. So now I want you to float up above your memory in your timeline, and let's float back now. And we're going to go back to your past because we're going to look for a memory there again to do something else with it. So let's float back, take a memory from the past. That's not really a very important one. Now some people try to fool me when I say things like that. They say, well, I'll just take the biggest event. And that's not what we're really going for in this exercise. Just take something kind of lightweight, a memory that you don't care about for now, for purpose of this discovering your timeline experiment. And I'd like you to take just any old memory out of your timeline, but pick one now. Take it out of your timeline. Lock, stock, and barrel, meaning the whole memory, the whole thing. Just take it right out of the timeline and stick it out in front of you. Put it more in front of you. You take it out of the timeline, stick it way out in front of you, sort of push it farther out in front of you. Push it farther from yourself. Push it sort of away. Push it even farther away than it was when you first found it and grabbed it. And just now push it farther and farther and farther out. Just take it out and stick it in front of you and push it farther out and farther away. And make it darker as it goes farther away. And make it faster as it's speeding away. And then make it go fast and out as far as the sun until it hits the sun, and when it does, it just blows up right there in the sun, evaporates. So that's kind of a fun way to just make a little gap in your timeline. Don't worry, it's not gone forever or it's going to affect you in any negative way to throw away a memory. But now there's a little gap in your timeline memory that we could play with there too, where that old memory was, that you just threw into the sun. I mean, you could literally go into the sun and grab it and back out and put it back in if you wanted to. But this is just having fun with our timeline. But another thing you could do is you could make up a new memory. You could just make up a new memory, any kind you want really right now. Any kind of memory that makes you feel really good about yourself. One where you're the way you want to be, for example. So make one up about yourself, and now I'd like you to put that new memory in the timeline where that other memory was. Just put it in that spot. Excellent. This is learning how to work with and play with your timeline and how to, for lack of a better word, manipulate, move things around. Excellent. Now, when you've done that, take all the time you need and then float up above your timeline again now. As you do, notice how good it feels to be above all that. And float towards the now, the present time. And this time, I'd like you to go past the present time of now, out into the future, say in 90 days, and go to an event that you want to have happen by then. Find something that you would like to have happen in the future in about 90 days, something you really, really want, and you want to see that in 90 days. You might want to check and see if you have a sense of excitement or anticipation, almost like you're licking your lips when you think about this particular event, because it just seems compelling. Okay, so we have a super compelling experience. And that's the one that we want to play with now. By the way, notice that just like the past events, there are future events in your timeline too. What does that say about your ability to have what you want? What if the future events are already there, and all that happens is that the now just moves along your timeline? How about that? I mean, that's cool, right? Because you just started thinking about something from 90 days, so that memory is there. It's a future memory. It's a future vision, if you want to call it that. But what does that say about your ability to program the future so you can be having whatever you want? Now, wouldn't that be exciting? So, back to our discovering our timeline. Can you pull up this outcome or this event that you want, that you really want? Can you see it or pull it up? And can you step into your body in that vision if you're not already there? And feel the feelings of having what you want. What you want is accomplished. You're there. Get into it, into the memory of it. Now take whatever it is that makes this memory of the future more compelling for you. You could turn up the brightness of it. You could make it brighter. You could feel it more. You could have some things that you hear or see or smell. Some people might turn down the brightness and it becomes more compelling. So everyone's different. Some people turn it up. So I want you to do whatever you need to do to make it more real so that you really, really want it. Bring it closer. Bring it close enough so that it makes you feel really good. Yes, and make it more focused and clear and sharper. Excellent. Just one more time, I want you to feel the feelings of being able to have whatever you want. Now take that event and put it in the timeline. Just go put it right where it feels right that it's supposed to be. As you put it in the timeline, now you step back out of the picture so that you see yourself, you see your body in the picture, and then put that event back in your timeline and notice that the work on the one event in the future has now affected all the other events between now and that time in the future when the events occurred. In the future event where you just dropped it in, turn around and look towards now and just see how you have a sense of various images that just have automatically put themselves there. As you stand in the future looking back towards now, notice that the events from then to now have changed to support the compellingness of that event that you just created and put in your timeline. Notice how it happens automatically. That's the cool part. So now what I'd like you to do when you're ready, is float back to now, float right back down into now, and open your eyes if your eyes were closed. You can come back now whenever you're ready. Did you notice that making the event more compelling, it changed the whole gestalt or ecology of all the events around it, surrounding it, leading up to it, and going back towards the now? I hope you did. So now you may or may not have noticed all these things, but what happens is that any changing of a future event like that in your timeline, it'll change all the events of the entire continuum on that timeline. So more about programming your future timeline for success in the next video, where we're going to do this for a little bit longer and a lot more compelling, and it'll be a session you won't want to miss. You can use it again and again, and so I invite you to get ready for that now by first identifying what is it you really, really want at any point in the timeline of your future. Come back to me when you're ready.